All right, I'm gonna go ahead and let these folks in. Give a minute for everyone to connect their audio.
What happened?
Well, we're just waiting for people's audio to connect. All right, thank you everyone for being here. My name is Donovan Scribes. I am the communications manager here at the Community Alliance of Tenants. We are here today to reflect on some of the victories from this past short session, but to also reflect on what's happening for tenants, as we just heard that the Oregon Emergency Rental Assistance Program is coming to a close, and what that's meaning for tenants across the state, and what we need from our elected officials moving into the next legislative session. So we are joined by a number of housing advocates across the state today who will be sharing their perspectives on the housing crisis that we're in, and what we're wanting going into the next legislative session. So I will be introducing our speakers throughout today's press conference. And at the end, there will be time for media to ask questions. As you can see, where not every housing or housing advocate that is here on screen today will be speaking, but we are joined by a coalition of organizations across the state. But first, I will be introducing Kim McCarty, the Executive Director of Community Alliance of Tenants.
Thanks, Donovan. First, thanks everyone for being here today. I'm Kim McCarty, Executive Director of the Community Alliance of Tenants. And I want to let you know that in 2016, the Community Alliance of Tenants declared a housing state of emergency. This was at the moment when prices were skyrocketing across our city, wages were not keeping up with the cost of living, and record numbers of people were becoming homeless, the impacts of which were disproportionately felt by people of color, immigrants, refugees, and low-income tenants. The worldwide public health emergency caused by COVID has made it much worse. CAT immediately recognized the threat of the pandemic posed to our already existing housing crisis and has been advocating for more to be done for renters during this time. We've worked with several important partners in this space that we are joined by today, who helped us advocate for critical funding for housing stability and homelessness prevention. As a result of the hard work of tenants and housing advocates statewide, the legislature passed a $400 million package, including $80 million for flexible funding for housing stability and homelessness prevention. This money is critical to keeping people housed, quickly rehousing someone that becomes houseless, and building new affordable housing that is greatly needed. So we're grateful today to our partners at the Fair Shot Coalition, the Oregon Law Center, and the 30+ organizations that signed on to our budget proposal to help advocate for these important funds. And we also want to thank Senator Jama and Representative Fahey for helping champion this package during a time when we know that many in the Oregon legislature have been taking the attitude of no more handouts for renters. We consider the funding package a victory for renters across Oregon, just like the passage of the safe harbor, the rent debt grace period, and the eviction moratorium. However, this victory is celebrated with the understanding that we're still in a renter state of emergency and lasting changes are needed. This week, the state announced the Oregon Emergency Rental Assistance Program would be closing next Monday. Though expected, this is a blow to tenants statewide. We're worried. Will our cities and counties be prepared to help people who become homeless after eviction? And census data tells us that thousands of Oregonians are feeling rent insecure. Data from the Portland State University analysis of the period between July of 2021 and December of 2021, that COVID public health emergency period, that people who were summoned to court during that period, more people were evicted instead of protected. Only 16% of this group got the safe harbor protections and eventually got their case dismissed. This is because of too many defaults. Advocates are saying that tenants need attorneys to benefit from their rights and prevent these defaults, prevent these evictions. It's just one of the many issues that need to be addressed to truly prevent homelessness. And there's a warning in the data. Mid-March, we will see eviction cases involving households with pandemic-related back rent. This is why we ask for more resources throughout Oregon for homelessness prevention funds. And unfortunately, the data does not show the whole world of evictions that will be happening before they even get to court, because these evictions have the same impacts on households and on our social service system. So today, you'll be hearing from our partners who help secure these protections and work with our most vulnerable residents every day. They will talk to you about these victories and also how the current crisis is impacting them. You will also be hearing from people that have lived the hardships associated with the pandemic and have fought the hardest for the policy changes that have helped us all. There's still too much more to do for renters, and CAT, along with our partners in this space, are already gearing up for the next legislative session to advocate for bolder possible solutions for Oregon tenants. So thank you for being here this morning, and I'd like to pass it on to our next speaker.
Next will be CAT Board Secretary Delfina Andrade. Delfina. Delfina, you're on mute.
My name is Delfina Andrade, and I'm a CAT board member. And
oh, okay, sorry.
Adelante. And I would like to talk to you today about the value of tenants' voices. And CAT has made it possible for tenants to learn more about their rights when they rent housing and learn what the limits of a landlord are. We know that we have the right to equal rights in housing. It's important to hear from the Latino community, which in the midst of this pandemic is being harassed by landlords. There's a lot of abuse against the Latino community. Landlords. The landlords are charging additional deposits, and if there are any late fees, they're exorbitant. In spite of it all, we've learned to depend for our home, for our safety, for our health, our work, school, and for so many other reasons. But I want to say to all tenants, CAT will be there as an organization. To teach them their rights and above all to empower the tenant in our communities. Yes, in our communities. In my family, we've seen it all. This pandemic has been very frustrating because my whole family got COVID. My experience as a tenant is not unique. It was very frustrating because I have 5 children, and when I received an eviction letter, and all my family were infected by COVID. The stress, depression, lack of resources. In a situation where, despite knowing my rights, I collapsed. And then I told myself that I can defend myself. That's why I'm with CAT. And this is why I learned my rights as a tenant and stood up with the help of CAT. And I'm an example for many families and community who've placed their trust in me and in CAT. The struggle has not ended. We will keep on making our voices heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Jamie Carlton, a CAT board member.
Thank you. I'm Jamie Carlton. The pandemic has been a struggle for getting things that I need and making ends meet on SSI disability. I've had many of my benefits stripped from me, which is hard enough. I now have to stand in food lines to be able to eat, and the pandemic makes it worse. My rent went up 5 times higher after I filed my civil rights case, and now I'm going to have even have more money taken from me from the housing authority, making my rent even higher for receiving a cost of living adjustment raise. This has caused me further financial hardship during this pandemic, and the price of everything has gone up, including gas. Paying car insurance and maintenance was hard enough without gas prices going up. And I haven't even mentioned last year's heat wave. After my 88 air conditioner was removed by my landlord, it was returned damaged to me by my landlord. I was left without a way to stay cool. My face turned bright red. I became sick and I was exhausted. I just couldn't cool off. I've had to leave my apartment. I had to go to places like the gym and libraries and stores for relief. I sat in my car for a while, but the air conditioner struggled to work because it was 111 degrees. I feel that I should be able to stay in my own home to find relief from the heat. Despite these bad experiences of living in constant stress, financial burden, and the bureaucracy of this unfeeling system that is not compassionate, but rather mechanical at times, it has caused me to feel very despondent because I have to continue to fight for my rights. I've had no family support system for my financial needs. I'm also on disability, and I had no savings to fall back on. I've had to struggle and fight for everything that I've done. I will continue to do so for my basic rights and for the rights of others.
Next is Lamar Wise from the Fair Shot Coalition.
Thank you, Donovan. And thank you so much, Jamie, for sharing your story. My name is Lamar Wise. I use he and his pronouns. I work for Student Council 75, and I'm also a part of the steering committee for Fair Shot. Addressing houselessness requires Oregon to address multiple crises, all of which were made worse by the pandemic. Roughly 50 organizations led by the Fair Shot Coalition came together early in the pandemic to create the People's Budget, a blueprint for helping communities hardest hit by the pandemic, particularly BIPOC, LGBTQ+, immigrant and refugees, and working in low-income households to make it through the pandemic and also change our government's history and approach of underinvestment in the basics for our communities. The People's Budget included one-time investments priorities fueled by the ARPA funds to address the multiple crises exacerbated by the pandemic, such as emergency rental assistance and other stopgap measures, such as food assistance, investments in mental and physical health, support for childcare, and direct payments to low-income households. It also included transformational investments and policy solutions, such as the Equity Investment Act and farm worker overtime to make sure underserved communities can afford their rent and mortgage. The People's Budget also highlighted investments in transforming our justice system to reduce the separation of families caused by a lack of due process, whether that be from being pulled over and unfairly searched or facing a deportation proceeding without legal representation. Together, these transformative policy changes and investments will lead to more economic stability and more racial, gender, and economic justice. Those are the kind of investments we need to continue to see to address houselessness in Oregon. The partnership of organizations within Fair Shot and our broader community will be calling on lawmakers to work with us in the future sessions to make sure that everyone in Oregon can have a stable housing and a fair shot. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Katrina Holland of Join.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Katrina Holland. I am Executive Director of Join, which is a homeless services agency that serves folks in the metro area, primarily Multnomah County, Washington County, and slivers of Clackamas County. Since the beginning of the pandemic, we have been clear to our elected leaders that we do not have enough infrastructure to serve thousands more homeless families and individuals. And that in order to deal with this, we must take a series of actions to prevent homelessness, support those who've fallen off the cliff, and rehouse those who've unfortunately found themselves on the streets. The $400 million flexible housing package passed at the end of session is a vital lifeline for people living on the streets, the invisible houseless folks, couch surfing, staying with friends and family, and keeping those who are currently housed stable and in place as other critical protections like OREAP expire. But that's far from enough. Until systemic changes are made, we will be left with a much larger homeless crisis on our hands by the next legislative session. The need has never been greater. Oregon Housing and Community Services distributed more dollars in the last year than they have in the last 10, and the need is still not met. A recent survey in the metro area demonstrated that up to a third of households feel as though they are on the brink of houselessness themselves. And over half know someone who personally has experienced homelessness. Those numbers will continue to climb. Many Oregonians know in their own families how close we are to becoming homeless ourselves. Service providers have a successful formula for helping people leave homelessness, treat people with dignity, rehouse quickly and permanently, but we must build that infrastructure. We know from experience that mass sheltering, punishment, and policing do not help but make things worse. We must think systemically to work to end the threat and the experiences of homelessness for our current neighbors and those who find themselves on the brink, and we must do it now.
Next, we have Vivian Satterfield of Verde.
Thank you, Donovan, and thank you to all the tenants joining us today to share their personal experiences and stories. Good afternoon. I'm Vivian Satterfield. I use she, her pronouns, and I work for Verde as the Director of Strategic Partnerships. Verdes serves communities by building environmental wealth through social enterprise, outreach, and advocacy. This summer's heat wave brought countless preventable deaths across our state. The global climate crisis reached the front doors of some of our most vulnerable residents. The heat dome was the second deadliest natural disaster in our state's history, and we have plenty of evidence that it will not be our last extreme climate event. Oregon and the entire Pacific Northwest is experiencing hotter, drier, and smokier summers, and many of our communities are lacking basic infrastructure to keep cool and safe. This is why Verde and our coalition partners fought hard for legislation this session to expand access to cooling, to make sure that when the next extreme heat event strikes, that we are prepared with the tools that can help. We mobilized dozens of people across the state to demand an emergency response ahead of summer to ensure that we don't have people die in Oregon from preventable heat-related illnesses. With the successful bipartisan passage of the Emergency Heat Relief Act, Senate Bill 1536 increases access to portable heat cooling devices in residences overseen by landlords, homeowner associations, condo associations, and local governments, and directs the Oregon Health Authority to create a program to acquire air conditioners and filters for distribution on an emergency basis to eligible individuals. The measure also sets requirements for new residential rental units to provide adequate cooling facilities, ensuring tenants have a right to cooling. Our goal in the short term is to protect people and tenants like Jamie who won't be denied the right to use air conditioners, and that landlords have the resources necessary to keep homes cool, as well as on-site cooling centers to keep renters safe. We recognize this is a huge step for climate and housing justice moving forward, and we have a heavy heart for the 96 Oregonian lives lost on the path to it. Thank you.
Next, we'll have Katia of Human Solutions.
Good, Donovan. And thank you everyone here who is dedicated to advancing housing justice. My name is Katia Salas-Neva and I use she, her pronouns. I'm a community organizer with Human Solutions. As many know, Human Solutions is one of the biggest affordable housing providers in the state. And we can tell you that most of our tenants have tried since the beginning of this pandemic to pay their rent. It has been heartbreaking over the last 2 years to hear how many people have had to drain their savings, sell valuable possessions, apply for social support programs, only to be met with red tape to the point where many wanted to give up. While we have seen some critical protections come through, and thank you for that, there is a patchwork of funding, and it has been difficult to support and navigate, not only for us as an agency, but our residents as well. We like and want to see more models and approaches that support landlords in having to apply for rent assistance versus tenants. This prevents families and individuals that already are struggling and juggling other responsibilities from having one more thing on their plate. We have more manpower and capacity and should be, and we want to support models that take the burden off our most vulnerable population. Thank you so much.
Lori Palmer, Human Solutions resident.
Hi, my name is Lori Palmer, and I go by her, she pronouns. I'm the founder of Go Get Your Child Community Violence Gun Prevention Program. My real title is Change Agent on all platforms of injustice. That's why I'm here today addressing the homeless injustice in crisis in Oregon. During and through the pandemic, I was personally affected in many areas. The major areas that really affected me emotionally were seeing and feeling the pain of residents in my apartment, family, and the community suffering from the lack of rental assistance, support from local government and city officials. My son died during the pandemic, and had it not been for Human Solutions emergency rental assistance and other resources during that time, I don't know what I would have done to survive so many losses. As a change agent, I wear many hats, many different hats. I am currently sitting on a policy committee with CAT. I am a founding member of Resident.
Lori, you just went mute. Lori, you're on mute. Lori.
Lori, we can't hear you.
Thank you.
Missed some of your comments.
Am I on mute now?
No.
Lori, if you'd like to continue, I think you had a lot of really good, important things still to say. So I think you started with you were starting to talk about residents, maybe organizing for change.
Yes, Residents Organizing for Change. I'm a founding member of that. And then also I'm the lead resident of a Human Solutions Resident Advisory Board. Our takeaway today should be we all should work together because we are all going to be affected by this homeless crisis one way or another. And that is the solution to it. We need to work together because we're there united and people working together, there is power. And that's where we're going to get our power, working together. City officials, government, everybody, we in this together. We got to get in this together. And if this goes through with people being homeless, regular people that's in housing, being out there with homeless people that have been out there for years and years, and then all the other stuff that's going on in life. You think Portland, Oregon got a crisis right now. It's really going to be out of control. So let's all get in this to win and to make sure that families stay safe and that we provide the services that they need. So once again, I would like to just thank everybody that I'm sitting on committees, everybody that I speak on platform. Thank you so much because my heart is in this. Thank you.
Thank you. Marsh Santoro next, also another Human Solutions resident.
Hi, my name is Marsh Santoro. I go by she, her pronouns. I'm a ROC member. I'm a founding member of a ROC committee. I also have an RO. I'm an RO of HSI. I have 40 plus years as a professional childcare provider. I am coming to you as a story that of my community here. In 2020, we lost our regular food delivery food boxing deliveries here, and we didn't know what we were going to do. It was hit and miss. A church stepped up and said, we can offer the food boxes to you. We need somebody to deliver them. Me and another resident here stepped up and said, we can do that. So every other week, we have not missed a week. We have not missed every other week, nor a holiday, delivering food boxes to our community here. We found a need and we stepped up. Delivering food boxes to our community. We found a huge need here. We stepped up, but we need the government to help us and to step up and help all of our communities with funding, with funding and with bills and with affordable housing. We need more of this to help us out across our state. We just need all of this. We can't do it ourselves. We have manpower, but we don't have enough. But there's volunteering. We volunteer as much as we can. We're putting ourselves out there. When we have whatever extra food boxes we have, we deliver to another lady here at our community. She's helping out communities out in Sandy, Boring, and Estacada, where the pantries are either non-existent or there's so few that the people can't get to them during the hours that they're not working. They're coming from Estacada, Boring, and Sandy clear out here to my little city in Fairview to pick up food boxes that we have extra because there's just not enough out there. We need help. Please help us. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. And last, we will have Kevin Cronin of the Springfield Eugene Tenants Association.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kevin Cronin. I use he, him pronouns. I work for Housing Oregon, which is a coalition of community development corporations that supports all these great organizations. I'm also a co-founder of the Springfield Eugene Tenant Association, and I currently rent my house in Eugene. The housing market is really tough for renters outside of Portland. Here in Lane County, we are seeing entire buildings being no-cause evicted by landlords for allowable reasons under Senate Bill 608. During the holidays, 57 people called our hotline because they were no-cause evicted without displacement assistance. We're seeing mass non-renewals of leases in their first year for student renters. This is paired with a market that has one of the lowest vacancy rates of all time. These market conditions present extreme challenges for renters, particularly during the transition from one unit to another. We applaud Representative Nathanson for introducing House Bill 4125, legislation that addresses inequality during the screening process. We were dismayed that this bill died due to procedural limitations during the short session. For 2023, we're hoping to see an omnibus bill that addresses a variety of inequity during lease-up. We would like to see the consumer protections present in spare and reload ordinances extended to the rest of the state, as market conditions warrant new consumer protections for renters. I personally have faced the horrors of displacement through no-cause eviction on short notice 3 separate times over the past 12 years, and I understand that it can easily spiral the unprivileged into homelessness. Lawmakers need to step up and bring equity-based solutions that help renters survive. We are grateful to the legislative leaders for making important investments in housing and homelessness prevention in people's budget, but we need to more than double our efforts in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kevin, and thank you to all our speakers today. This concludes our speakers for the day, but we wanted to open it up to media to ask any questions. I see Pamplin has asked a question in the chat here, so we'll start with them, and then if any other media members want to ask questions, please either do so by using the virtual raise hand function or typing stack so we can track the order that the questions are coming in. But we'll start again with Pamplin. So what are some ways that Oregonians who are not facing housing insecurity can be more effective allies to unhoused or at-risk tenants? Who would like to take that on?
Hey, Donovan, I'll start. This is Kim McCarty with the Community Alliance of Tenants. I think all Oregonians can start by understanding how this could be something that you could face yourself, and what would you do? That kind of empathy, something that might be happening to your own family or community, and the impact that it has on all of us. That's a place to start. And then I'm really inspired by the 3,000 challenge, and these folks from Street Roots saying that our housing providers could provide a unit that, we just talked about how many of we have many vacant units, and those could be given to someone who is houseless. We have many people here in our communities that have rooms that you could share your home and bring somebody in. That we, of course, have a lot of resources. Our economy has not fallen apart, and so there's more that we can do to share. So these are just some ideas that are being expressed at this moment, and I think there's others here that could also answer that question.
Yeah, I'd also love to, Katrina Holland here, Join Executive Director. Love to piggyback on Kim McCarty's comments to also say that a lot of our house neighbors can start calling their local jurisdictions to demand that items like the 3,000 challenge and other continue to move forward. And I think it's also critically important that in that messaging, folks make sure that they are encouraging options that that hold at its center the dignity and humanity in how we're going to address the crisis. I want to say probably a couple weeks ago, right before the $400 million package was released, there was a group of cities who requested some funding to do mass sheltering. And I'm pretty sure some folks from Human Solutions as a shelter provider might be able to offer some insight here, but mass sheltering has proven to be a very old, antiquated way in which we address folks' houselessness, and in some cases can cause neurobiological harm. So for our house neighbors who are worried about the expanding houses crisis, please make sure to pass that on to your legislators as you contact them, so that we don't create a situation where we're spending millions of dollars on things that don't work and that just extend or prolong people's experience of houselessness while causing them harm.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Hey Donovan, this is Jayathy from the Oregonian. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, great. I'm in a moving vehicle, so I wasn't sure if I'm connected still. But so OHCS at their news conference earlier this week said that they don't plan to focus anymore on short-term or emergency rental assistance or relief, and instead, when ORAP expires next week, they plan to pivot instead to long-term housing solutions. I understand that that is a big and crucial piece of this, but for short-term and immediate housing relief, what needs to happen? What needs to happen to take the place of this, I guess, service that's going to expire next week?
I see Marie has raised a hand.
Hi, I'm Maria Lynn Claire. I'm a member of CAT and also chair of Oregon Renters in Action. And I'm also on the Rental Services Commission. And at the start of this pandemic situation, we had asked that Oregon set up a system whereby we got a kind of a tally of how many people were hanging over the edge and about to go over the eviction cliff, and also to put those people in a tranche to where they would be prioritized first to receive intake, to get assessed, and to be put on the priority list to receive resources. And so that was one thing. And so I think right now that's what we need to continue to do, because we have people that can't pay forward rent because they're either underemployed or they're unemployed or they're ill and they can't go to work, or they're taking care of a family member and that kind of thing. And so, and because like what we've already discussed, the speakers have said that the money that they're having to pay, they keep getting another $100 rent increase, and on top of already we're in an inflationary period, et cetera. So I think we need to start with a proactive preventative stance and not just chasing our tails and waiting for the train to hit us. We need to get ahead of it. The other thing in terms of long-term, we do need long-term, because obviously the system, even before the pandemic, was not working. And tenants had to go to the state and beg to get the rent cap reduced down to 10%. We'd asked for 3%. And we really need, for the lower income population that CAT really represents, the 10% cap is not working. And what they're doing, and we've already pointed to this, what the speakers have said, that they are getting around it by getting out
tenants through non-lease renewals and then raising the rent on those particular spaces. So I think in response to the first question, I think that as a whole, our population, the community members on all levels need to face reality. This system is not working. It's failing us. And once upon a time in America, we had wage-based housing. And after the 70s, it all kind of went downhill and everybody got on the market rate thing where we turned housing into a commodity. And now it's choking everybody. And so people can't even pay their taxes on their homes. And now young people who want to get into a home, they can't get into one because it's so high, they can't afford it. And now that we're almost in World War III and we've got supply chain issues and that kind of thing, we need to really sit down as a community and as a state and get a long-term and a short-term plan together and then put it in operation, and one that makes sense and face reality that what we're doing is failing. So that's my response. Thank you.
Marie, and then Kim wanted to respond to that question as well.
Was it me, Donovan, or Lori?
Yes, it's you.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I'd like to answer this question as well. First, homelessness should not be an option. We need to prevent that at all costs. It's too costly for the households and for our system. In the short term, what we were fighting for was more resources in all of the community action agencies and culturally specific organizations in Oregon to help them help families get rapidly rehoused. So yes, the Oregon Emergency Rental Assistance Program portal is closing, but emergency rental assistance is still in the state. It still needs to be distributed. And that's an issue that we will continue to be fighting for.
Any additional questions?
Hey, this is Alex with the Portland Mercury. I had a quick question. After Monday when ORAP closes, you mentioned there's still going to be ways to get rental assistance through local community programs. Can you just detail how tenants can get that support and where that funding is coming through, if not through ORAP and not through kind of the federal funding streams?
Alex, I have to admit that I probably don't have all the details, but my understanding is that this funding that's been allocated will go through Oregon Housing and Community Services. It will be distributed through the current types of contracts that they currently have in place with community action agencies and other culturally specific organizations that have provided short-term rental assistance or emergency rental assistance. And the way that tenants can find out about this should be through the state website that's currently devoted to emergency rental assistance. There's also a list of community action agencies, their phone numbers and contact information that's on the state website. So I think that will be another source of information to tenants. And then lastly, 211 serves as an information portal for everyone statewide. And they are also continuing to give that information. I hope that our organization and other advocates will be invited by the state to figure out the best way to get this information to tenants.
Lori.
You said a valuable point. They get in contact with us and we be in communication. The problem is we're not all talking, but we're all using the same resource money. And agencies they're going by what's going on in their book, how you qualify. I was a housing specialist for 5 years with Central City Concern. Homeless people that could not even get housing, I was making it happen. But I was 211, they're great. But as you can see through the pandemic, all systems are overwhelmed. And what I need to say to you is, what about the people that do not qualify for these community action programs? Red tape. They're going to be homeless on the street. There's people that don't even know how to get resources. So we need to all get together and start talking to get the information out there so they can get resources. And also we need to start talking so we can do a better job at this.
Thank you, Lori and Kim. Alex, I see your hand is still raised. Did you have a follow-up? Or was that from earlier?
No, that was it. Thank you. I'll put my hand down.
Marie, did you just raise your hand?
Yes, and I just want to add to what's already been said is that, what we could do is in each community, Northeast, Southeast, et cetera, we could start a door knock and ask people, find out where people are in terms of vulnerability and start the process of getting some sort of or clear idea of, where the most needs are. Because like I said, the whole system is overwhelmed. And 211, quite frankly, um, you know, you don't know what you're going to get when you call these numbers. And when people try to call you back on the phone, you can't tell with the caller ID because it's not identifying that exact agency because people are working from home. So I think as we get off the mask mandates and that kind of thing, we might consider community door knocks.
Thank you. Any other media
Hello,
questions?
hello.
And if you're not speaking, please put yourself on mute. All right. If there aren't any additional questions, we are gonna close out today's press conference. And if there are additional comments,
You see, Delphina has her hand up.
I'm sorry. We'll make Delphina's comment the last, and we'll transition.
You're muted, Paul. We can't hear you.
The organizations they're helping with rent are also full of people, full of applicants. Yes, that is true. We need to learn how to work with organizations more. So be able to get to share out the resources within the organizations, make sure we can all handle it. Yeah. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, so thank you everyone for coming out today. Thank you to media for being here for today's press conference. If there are follow-up questions, you can email me at donovans@oregoncat.org. We're here to answer any questions you might have. And yeah, once again, thank you to everyone for being here, and have a good day.
Thanks, everyone.